Hey, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. My birthday was on the 30th. Um, just wanted to sit down. It's New Year's Eve right now. Um, I don't know where Noah is. So Noah, if you're watching this and if you ever want to record a video again, you have my number. Please contact me. But since Christmas Day, this loss has been the Texans losing on Christmas Day to the Ravens 31-2. This has to be one of the worst losses from a division leader, from a contender. Preseason, they were top 3 in odds to win the Super Bowl. This has to be one of the worst losses in NFL history. I know the Saints just got shut out the other day offensively. They obviously had a safety, but their offense got shut out, and it's just crazy that they had this bad of a loss at home on Christmas Day to the Ravens. And this Ravens team, they're obviously like one of the juggernauts in the NFL, but this team's also beatable. They lost to the Steelers, they lost to the Browns, and they lost to the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders and the Browns are some of the worst teams in the NFL. So this team's definitely beatable. And it made me start to think, where did the Texans go wrong in this rebuild that they are currently in right now? Because obviously they were full rebuild mode. You go and you draft Will Anderson Jr., you draft CJ Stroud, Nico Collins takes the next step. Tank Dell is a really good player, and you guys kind of Derek Stingley starts to become healthy. You guys start shooting up over the moon, win the division, make the playoffs, win a playoff game, and things are looking really high. And you go into this season extremely excited about what you could possibly be. And I know the first thing that everyone is going to bring up is injuries, but all season, and a lot of people probably haven't watched this channel if you're coming across this video, but if you have, you know that me and Noah were skeptical of what the Texans could possibly be going into this season, because it seems like when everybody is on a team going into the year, that team always underachieves. I think of like the Chargers 2 years ago. I forget the team exactly who it was last year. And then obviously the Texans this year, where people were picking them to win, to go to the Super Bowl, which, like, obviously they haven't done anything yet to earn that, but people were very high on them, and I understand why. But even fully healthy, this team has looked very like disjointed offensively, I'd say. And the way that the games while fully healthy, these are all wins, by the way. They beat the Colts 29-27, the Bears in an absolute rock fight 19-13, the Jags 24-20, the Bills 23-20. And then the loss to the Jets in prime time was probably the most eye-opening loss to the public, where I was texting some of my friends being like, man, like, I don't know. I don't like the Texans this year. Like, I don't think that they're very good. And all of them were like, you're just a CJ Stroud hater, like, blah, blah, blah. When they lost to the Jets in prime time, it finally felt like people started to shift a little bit on like their view of the Jets team, or not the Jets, the Texans team, and what they're actually capable of, like long term, just this season, not overall. We'll get into that in a little bit later. And that loss, like, as you know, I mean, the Jets suck. I mean, that is like one of the poorest, like, what's aged the worst in this NFL is them losing to the Jets, who, I mean, the Jets don't have a snowball's chance in hell. And then obviously they lost to the Titans, another bad loss. They lost to the Chiefs, Ravens, Lions. Obviously, those are the best teams in the NFL, so I'm not going to fault them for that. But every game won this season has been by one possession. One possession they've won by, besides the Cowboys and the Patriots. So the point of why I'm saying that is this is a team that I would want to face first round of playoffs. There's always one every single season. I'm planting my flag. I would want to see this version of the Houston Texans this season, first round of playoffs, because I think that they're a very beatable football team. I think that even if they play their best, it'll still be close. It'll still be a one possession type of game, and it'll still be able, it could go either way. But I think if the right matchup happens for them, I could see them getting smoked. They play the Steelers, which it's looking like that might happen. I don't know. I think that's a little bit of more of a toss up for me because I hate the Steelers, but I think that still anything can happen. Next thing that I wanted to highlight as well, the Houston Texans did the absolute Steve Keim special. Steve Keim, the old GM for the Arizona Cardinals, adding 30-plus-year-old like stars a little bit past their prime instead of keeping young talent and trying to develop them. They added Diggs, Daniil Hunter, Joe Mixon. There were a few issues that I had with this. First, adding Diggs. I thought that one, I really like John Mechie. Still, I don't care what anyone says. He might not be as good as everybody thought he was, but I liked him and would have thought that it would have been helpful for him to get a season of full development even before the Diggs injury. Next, continue to develop Nico Collins. We saw early in the season, Nico Collins can be like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I'm really high on him. I like him a lot. He's a dog. I love everything about him. And then obviously the brutal injury to Tank Dell, and then the way that the season ended for him last year with breaking his leg, and then in the offseason getting shot in the leg, kind of a little bit of a year from hell from him. And I hope that like he'll probably miss the entire year next year, but that following season, I'm excited for him to come back. I think that he can be a good player in the NFL. I'm not putting that past him. We saw flashes of it. So that first point was adding Diggs, and I wanted to see them like I like Xavier Hutchinson too. Like they have Dalton Schultz. I wanted to see them continue to have that chemistry with CJ Stroud, keep those younger guys in the building, keep developing them and seeing what they can get, because I thought that the development of Nico Collins, who was a 4th-round pick, speaks very highly of what the ceiling could possibly be for some of these young wide receivers paired with CJ Stroud in this offense and what they can do. And I felt like bringing in Diggs was like a little bit redundant. And I mean, I just didn't really love that move. Next, they brought in Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has weeks where he looks like he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. And then he has some weeks where he is extremely inconsistent and looks like he doesn't belong on the football field. And I think that's a problem. I think that you see running backs pop up every single year who are decent. And I know that they got him for kind of a decent price, but again, adding in somebody with the caliber of talent that he is and was, and like those big egos, those guys who have played in big games, played in Super Bowls, etc. Some could say that it is important and essential for building a team. Others could say that it could be a detriment of the team, because adding somebody in with a outside voice or an outside ego when you have a good base, which I think the Texans do have one of the best bases that you can possibly have in sports, could kind of dilute the pool and maybe be of detriment rather than be of like value. And I think Joe Mixon fits in that category. Last, not keeping Jonathan Gennard. I know that Jonathan Gennard's got 11 sacks, Daniil Hunter has 12, blah, blah, blah. If I'm in the NFL, Daniil Hunter's 30, Jonathan Gennard's 27. Not that big of a difference, but it is a big difference, like in NFL years. Jonathan Gennard is a young player, got drafted by the Texans, was coming up, and he's producing well. You want to pay guys like that because you reward guys who develop in your system, and it's a good look for other guys to want to stay in the organization, etc. And to move on from him to add Daniil Hunter, who was 30. I just thought it was an interesting move. Like I said, why mess up the base that you have, especially coming off of the season that you guys had last year? It was like amazing. And it was like, let's see what we can do this upcoming season. And everybody kind of felt that same way. Like, let's see what we're able to do. And I think that this team could potentially win a Super Bowl. And obviously it's not playing out that way. And then on the other side of things is the O-line. CJ Stroud has been sacked 52 times this season. What an absolute missed evaluation of your team to prioritize adding people like Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, Daniil Hunter. And I understand that, like, draft capital wise, it was fairly cheap, but to not know that your offensive line would be traffic cones all season was a very big misevaluation of like who you had in that building. And I feel bad for CJ this season. And lastly, and this is a question for Texans fans. I hope this video catches the Texans fans. You guys are watching it. Who are you most concerned about moving forward? Bobby Slowick or CJ Stroud? People who are trying to take like the victory lap on CJ Stroud being like, I knew he wasn't good, blah, blah, blah. Just save that. He's going to be good in the NFL probably for a really long time. I think probably last year he played way above expectation and people were expecting that all the time. Doesn't matter. CJ's still extremely talented and he's going to be good in the NFL for a long time. So like people overreacting to that, you guys are just annoying, and relax. What I personally think, and you guys let me know too, is I think Bobby Slowick is their biggest problem right now for this team. It dates back to last year. He's always married to the run kind of on first down. And then that puts the offense and the Texans don't run the ball effectively on first down well, which then allows for long second downs and long third downs, putting CJ Stroud in a position to have to throw on the Superman cape, have to make those plays every single time, like third and longs. And last year, majority of the time, he was able to bail out the team and put them in a position to convert those third downs. This year, it's kind of regressing to the mean a little bit more because asking somebody to do that, whether that be Tom Brady or a young quarterback in the NFL who's been starting for 2 seasons, that's a lot to ask. And I think sometimes it's okay to ask for that, but for that to be the expectation every single week, you can tell that it started to kind of play a role in how teams start to play this Texans offense. And I think that after the season, I don't think he'll be fired, but I think Slowick will be like evaluated, is probably the way I would put it, by ownership, coaching staff, whoever, and really ask them, do we think this guy is the right guy? And then I think going into next season will be a big prove it for Bobby Slowick, because if he takes another step back or this offense takes another step back, CJ takes another step back, the fingers need to be pointed at him. And this is a guy who went from one of the hottest coaching candidates in the NFL at this time last year, heading into the playoffs, taking interviews, to now, me personally, I'm questioning if he should even be the OC long term for this Texans football team or if they should move on. And I'm actually curious to see what the Texans fans think about that. Am I tripping? Is it just a bad year, bad injuries, whatever? Let me know below. And I'm going to be posting a little bit more videos wherever Noah's at. Noah, text me, let me know what's going on. If you ever want to record again, or if you're just running around with your girlfriend and you'll be back at the beginning of the year, let me know. But thanks for watching. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Whatever. Peace.